From the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight. The Buffalo Bills matchup is coming up on this Saturday, and we're going to preview that a little bit today. Talk about some of the guys that need to have a big games. Of course, we also had our first cut downs for the Broncos already. A couple wide receivers gone, a running back, a safety in Jamar Johnson. So as we look ahead here to the Buffalo Bills game, let's talk about some guys that really probably need this game. And I know that you have a defensive lineman in mind here.
Yeah, I think McTelvin Agim needs this game. I do. I think you're talking about a guy who got in the doghouse of the last coaching staff, has opportunities to earn roster spots. Marquise Spencer goes down in practice the other day. Now you've really got a chance to earn this roster spot. You got to come through. You know, you've got to make it undeniable. And, you know, McTelvin, for being a guy that every offensive lineman raves about in terms of his ability to play in practice, it's just we haven't seen it in a game. We haven't seen him break out in a game. We need that. You need to in the preseason. You got to be dominating these guys. You got to be dominating the backups, dude. So we need the young fella from Arkansas to come out and throw some haymakers, maybe at the Buffalo Bills instead of teammates this time, and come out and dominate him. He's a guy that needs this to make this team.
I'm actually in agreement with you, and especially as you mentioned with the Marquise Spencer injury, this is a good opportunity for McTelvin Agim. I'm going to go to the wide receivers here and I could say collectively, I could single one out. It doesn't really matter. I think in the end, two guys were taken away here. We got Travis Fulgham and Caden Davis are no longer here. So you're not sharing reps. You're not sharing snaps with any of these guys. So you need to follow up on that performance, whether it's Seth Williams, who's in his second year, and it's probably the most pressure on him. Or you look at guys like Brandon Johnson, who's been running a lot with the ones, Jalen Virgil, who's been one of the top deep guys here on the roster. I go with any one of those three to start because all three of them need to show that what they did in the first preseason game isn't a fluke.
Well, yeah, and all three of those guys are fighting for two spots.
Exactly.
So there's an odd man out here. Don't be the odd man out. And you know, Brandon Johnson has come on. Jalen Virgil offers a skill set the other two don't have. And so that's, I think, to his benefit. But Brandon Johnson and Seth Williams going head-to-head for one roster spot, that's a tough matchup. You know, Seth's had some good plays out there. Brandon has been a monster out there. So it'd be interesting to see which one of those guys can firmly plant themselves as the roster guy and which one of these guys is going to be the practice squad guy.
Max Borghi was another guy that was in the first round of cuts. And for the running backs, I don't know the competition. I don't think it has as much juice, if you will, because you know that Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams are going to be the top two guys here. And of course, we know Mike Boone, at least believe Mike Boone's already pretty firmly on the roster. So really, we're battling for the fourth running back spot, but that doesn't matter. It does matter because it's a position that gets beat up a lot. And certainly you got to have some ability on special teams. So you're going to have Scott out there. You're going to have Hardy out there. And then you'll have Mike Boone. Is there anything you need to see from the running backs or hope to see from the running backs that will sway you one way or the other on who probably gets that fourth spot?
Well, I'd like to see more out of Mike Boone to solidify himself as the third guy.
That's a good point.
If we're being honest, Damari Crockett was nipping at his heels before he got hurt. And they had the season-ending ACL same day as Tim Patrick that got overshadowed a little bit. He was nipping at Mike Boone's heels. He was having a good camp. So, you know, I like to see more out of Mike Boone and then one of these other guys to step up. You know, Scott dropped 6 points. Brett Rippon gave him wide open, put the ball in his hands, and he dropped it. Hardy's, you're going to have to hit the hole with authority. You're going to be able to, have to show that you can run between the tackles in this offense. And
in general, the running game was underwhelming, and the coach even said so.
Yeah, lackluster, and they weren't getting pushed, and the running backs weren't taking advantage where they had the opportunities. So, yeah, they're going to have to stand out. Borghi, I thought, had some speed, but, just really didn't pick the right hole very well, and unfortunately, he's gone now. So if you want to make this roster, that's assuming they keep 4 running backs. If you want to make this roster, you got to go out there and prove it.
I don't know for the offensive line if there's anybody specifically that needs to have a big game, basically under the practice of what we're discussing here. But I'd say that if you're Graham Glasgow, you're in a very unique situation. Assuming he plays, which we saw him in the first preseason game out there. Assuming he plays, this is that opportunity because you're getting some time this week with the ones. Maybe you get a chance to sort of be back into that mixed conversation after this game. Mm-hmm. But if you have a poor performance, the other way around, that could also mean some things too.
Yeah, I think Graham, there's opportunities for Graham there in several different ways. If he comes out and has a good game. I think the other one's Calvin Anderson, Cam Fleming. Anderson, they were giving him the opportunity. He had every opportunity to solidify that job at right tackle and hasn't done it. So Calvin's going to have to get out there and take the job at this point because at this point they've activated Billy Turner from the pup. Now, he's not going to be ready until into the season, but they've activated Billy Turner, and that's the wake-up call. That's a siren wake-up call right there that says, hey, look, Calvin, you haven't done it yet. You haven't taken this job. job. And that's part of what you have to do in the NFL. You know, you can't just sit around and say, well, I've got the job, I'm just going to continue to do what I do. No, you've got to take the job. You got a Heisman Trophy stiff arm everybody behind you and say, no, this is my job. And Calvin hasn't done that. We like Calvin. Calvin's fun. He's smart. He's a funny guy. Great interview. Good dude. But you got to take the job.
I'm going to throw another one here on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to go say Justin Strnad, who is, because they brought in Joe Schobert, I would have said Strnad is pretty comfortable on the roster, but then bringing in Joe Schobert, now it's kind of a little bit between those two guys in the end, because Alex Singleton is going to make the roster, I think, because of his special teams, and then we already know what Josie Jewell is. Jonas Griffith will be back at some point early in the season, but at least for the 53-man cutdown, this is going to be an interesting battle here, not only in the Buffalo game, but also in Minnesota. Justin Strnad had some nice moments in that game, the last one that they played against Dallas, but I still don't know if it's enough. And so for him, he kind of needs to build on that a little bit, and then I guess sort of keep Joe Schobert at arm's length, because Joe Schobert's the guy that's brand new here. If Joe Schobert shows up and looks better, well, that's not necessarily good news for Strnad.
If he had done enough, Joe Schobert wouldn't have been signed. That just flat out. That's the thing. You haven't done enough. If they're signed other people, you haven't done enough. So that's another guy. You got to come out there, take the job, and make it your job, make it undeniable. Josie Jewell has done that, even though everybody, myself included, doubted him for a long time. Josie Jewell came out, took the job. It's my job, period. And keeps doing it every day. You got to come out and do that. And Justin Strnad had a good game, but not a good enough game. Make it undeniable. Have an elite game. Have a wow game. Go out there and have those kinds of games and make the coaching staff and the front office notice you and say, we can't let him go. Look how talented he is.
All right, the last one I'm going to add here, and this one isn't I think they're off the roster by any means, but I'd like to just see good performances from Michael Ojemudia and Essang Bassey. Bassey's probably a little bit closer than I think that I want to admit, because I'm a big Essang Bassey guy. But Damari Mathis has been playing pretty well out there. And it'd be good to see Damari Mathis, Faion Hicks have some good games. DeLauren Turner-Yell, I think, again, we're talking about 5 safeties maybe. So he's in that conversation, especially after Jamar Johnson was released. But when it comes to the secondary, some of these younger guys, it's not all about making the 53. It's also about what's your role coming up. So Michael Ojemudia probably needs to continue to play pretty well. He's going to get some more opportunities. Essang Bassey, I think, needs to show something more, because, again, we're starting to see where the Broncos are considering their options with the second, well, more so with their 4th, 5th, and 6th cornerbacks.
Right, yeah. Bassey's had opportunities to be the guy in the slot, and it has not hasn't solidified confidence that he can be a primary slot guy. Now, as your second slot guy, you're a little okay with that. But if your primary guy goes down and K'Wan got hurt, that's a problem. If you're a liability in coverage, that's a problem. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And for a guy like Bassey, when he goes out there in that secondary, all of a sudden he's become the weakest link. So that's a problem. Like Essang Bassey, love the dude, love talking to the guy down there. But at the same time, you got to come out and play. You got to your play has to match your personality. And so at the end of the day, he's going to have a better couple of preseason games. I think he's on the outside looking in. I think OJ and I think Mathis are guys that are probably going to make this roster, and I think Bassey's on the outside looking in right now.
Yeah, and then again, you think about Faion Hicks, who they drafted this year, and if he has an interception in this game, all of a sudden that can swing things one way or the other, and the coaching staff might say, all right, let's maybe take a longer look at this guy. Again, 16 guys in the practice squad. Opportunities are still going to be there for many of these guys to be on this team. Just it's about the 53, and it's about what can you do in these preseason games to show you belong on the active roster.
Yeah, and again, you've got 2 more chances to do that. Make it undeniable. Make it so they can't cut you.
All right, very good. We'll come back on Monday to break down the Broncos and Bills game. For Benjamin Albright, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight.
You got the world champions that live in your town.